The night shift at Harborview Medical Center was supposed to be quiet. Flu season had eased, the ER bays were half full, and the rain tapping against the ambulance doors felt like white noise. Emily Carter, a rookie nurse barely 6 months out of orientation, checked vitals with the careful precision of someone who still double-checked everything. She had the habit of listening longer than most, heart sounds, breathing patterns, the pauses between words. That habit was about to matter. The patient arrived without ceremony. No silence, no entourage, just an older man in a plain jacket, escorted by 2 men who said very little and watched everything. The intake note read chest discomfort, dizziness. His name was listed as James Walker. Insurance pending. Nothing about him stood out except his eyes. Calm, alert, trained. Emily took him to base 7. As she placed the blood pressure cuff, she noticed his left hand tremble, then still. His vitals were borderline, but not alarming. The EKG strip printed clean enough for a quick glance to miss what she saw. A subtle, irregular elevation that flickered and disappeared. She felt it more than she saw it. A sense that something was wrong right now, not later. "Sir," she said softly, "have you ever had pain like this before?" He met her gaze. "Only once," he replied. "A long time ago, on a ship." Emily's pulse picked up. She asked for troponin stat and requested a repeat EKG. The charge nurse hesitated. The ER was busy, and the on-call physician had already glanced at the first strip. "He's stable," the charge nurse said. "We'll get to it." Emily didn't argue. She did something riskier. She stayed. She noticed the man's breathing change, shorter, controlled like someone bracing. His skin tone shifted just a shade. Emily hit the call button and grabbed the crash cart closer. When a monitor alarmed, sharp and sudden, everything moved at once. Ventricular arrhythmia. The room snapped into action. "Code blue, base 7. Emily started. The rain had slowed to a mist by the time Emily reached the bus stop. Her phone buzzed with missed calls. Her mother, a nursing school friend, an unknown number she ignored. Terminated. The word echoed in her head like a bad diagnosis. She replayed the code over and over, wondering if she should have kept quiet, followed the rules, trusted the system instead of her instincts. Across the city, the man she knew as James Walker lay in a secure ICU room, guarded now by men who wore hospital badges but carried themselves like operators. The cardiologist stood at the foot of the bed, careful with his words. "If the nurse hadn't acted when she did," he said, "you wouldn't be here." The Admiral's eyes narrowed, not in anger, but in calculation. "What's her name?" "Emily Carter. Rookie nurse." He nodded once. "Find out why she was fired." Back at Harborview, the ER staff tried to return to normal, but the atmosphere had changed. The charge nurse avoided eye contact. The administrator checked his email more than usual. When a black SUV pulled into the employee lot, then another, people noticed. They noticed when men in dark suits stepped out, moving with quiet purpose, flashing credentials no one questioned. Emily, meanwhile, sat on a bench under the flickering bus stoplight, scrubs damp, shoes soaked. A vehicle slowed near her. Then another. She stood up, heart racing, every true crime podcast she'd ever heard rushing into her mind. One of the SUVs stopped. The window rolled down just enough for a man's face to appear. His voice was calm, controlled. "Emily Carter?" "Yes," she said, taking a step back. "Ma'am," he continued, "we need you to come with us." Now, before she could answer, her phone rang again. The same unknown number. She answered with shaking fingers. "Emily," a deep voice said on the other end, steady and unmistakably authoritative. "This is Admiral Jonathan Hayes, United States Navy. You saved my life tonight. Whatever you think you did wrong, yo." Emily sat in the back seat of the SUV, hands folded in her lap, watching the city blur past the tinted window. No handcuffs, no silence, just silence and the soft hum of the engine. The man in the front passenger seat finally spoke, not turning around. "For the record," he said, "you're not in trouble." "That's not how this usually starts," Emily replied, her voice tighter than she meant. He gave a small smile. "Fair." They didn't take her to a police station or a government building. Instead, The convoy rolled into a private medical facility she'd only heard about in passing, a place used when privacy mattered more than paperwork. Inside, security was tight but respectful. Badges were checked, doors opened, and Emily was escorted to a quiet conference room. A few minutes later, the door opened and the man from Base 7 walked in, now wearing a hospital gown and a cardiac monitor. Despite the wires, he stood straight, commanding. Emily recognized him instantly. "You," she said, standing up without thinking. He raised a hand gently. "At ease. Nurse Carter," he said with a faint smile. "And thank you." Again, he sat across from her. "I've been briefed. You were fired for ordering tests you weren't authorized to order." Emily swallowed. "Yes, sir." "Good," he said, "because those tests confirmed what your instincts already knew. Another 10 minutes, and we wouldn't be having this conversation." He leaned forward slightly. "I've spent my career telling my people to trust the one who sees what others miss. Tonight, that was you." Emily felt something crack in her chest. Not fear this time, but relief. "I just did my job." He shook his head. "No, you did more than your job. And now we're going to fix what happened next." He tapped a folder on the table. Inside were printed emails, timestamps, and policy citations. "Your termination was premature and very likely unlawful." Emily's breath caught. "You can do that." The Admiral's expression hardened, just a little. "I can make." Emily didn't sleep. The private room they gave her was quiet, almost too quiet, the kind of silence that makes your thoughts louder. Just hours ago, she'd been fired, standing in the rain wondering how she'd pay rent. Now she was in a secure facility with Navy security outside her door and a future she couldn't even guess at. At sunrise, the Admiral returned, dressed now in a pressed uniform despite the monitor still clipped to his chest. With him were two people, a woman in a tailored suit carrying a tablet, and a senior physician Emily recognized from national conferences. "We'll keep this simple," the Admiral said, taking a seat. "You're being reinstated at Harborview effective immediately. Full pay. No disciplinary record. The termination is already under review." Emily let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. "But," he continued, "that's the easy part." The woman slid the tablet toward her. On the screen were documents labeled DoD Medical Liaison Program and Special Operations Clinical Support. Emily's hands trembled slightly as she scrolled. "This is not a promotion," the Admiral said. "It's an invitation. A small number of nurses are selected to receive advanced training to support special operations, stateside, overseas, sometimes in places that don't officially exist." The physician added, "You'd still be a nurse, just with a different scope, different patients, and higher expectations." Emily looked up. "Why me?" "Because under pressure, you acted," the Admiral replied. "You didn't wait for permission when seconds mattered. That's rare." There was the weight of it. This wasn't just a job offer. It was a door opening into a world she'd never planned to enter. "And if I say no?" Emily asked. The Admiral didn't hesitate. "Then you go back to Harborview. Your record clean, your life unchanged. No consequences." This conversation disappears. Emily stared at the tablet again, then out the window where the city was waking up. She thought about Emily stood at the edge of the training floor weeks later, the smell of antiseptic mixed with steel and sweat. The facility wasn't marked on any map she recognized, but everything inside it was real. Real injuries, real pressure, real consequences. She wore the same scrubs as everyone else, but the expectations placed on her were heavier than any uniform. The first simulation went wrong on purpose. Alarms blared, lights dimmed, and a patient coded without warning. Instructors watched from behind glass, silent. Emily didn't freeze. She moved, hands steady, voice clear. She called out orders, adjusted meds, and stabilized the patient with seconds to spare. When it was over, no one clapped. They just nodded and reset the room. Between drills, she caught glimpses of the people she was training to support. Operators with scars they didn't talk about, medics who'd seen too much, leaders who measured time and lives. She realized something then. She wasn't there because of who she knew or what title she carried. She was there because, on one ordinary night, she refused to look away. Late one evening, As she finished charting, her phone buzzed with a secure message. Status update. Admiral Hayes discharged. Full recovery expected. She stared at the screen for a long moment, then set the phone down and returned to her work. Far from the headlines, far from harbor view, Emily Carter found her place in a world that would never know her name. But every time a monitor steadied, every time someone made it home because she acted when others hesitated, the truth remained the same. She hadn't lost her career that night. She had found it.